Diversity, inclusion, and equity at NASA. I'm sure they're leading to a much better NASA. The spotlight tends to shine on NASA only when a tragedy occurs or when there are issues such as recent ones with Boeing's Starliner. The removal of that spotlight, coupled with incompetent congressional leadership, has left NASA without a strong sense of purpose. Well, I think right now their purpose is to try to get pox on the moon or something. Now, this alone will be enough to damage the space program, but there's another rather large issue. For decades, NASA has engaged in open discrimination against white male engineers, Asian ones too. This discrimination has led to bloated budgets, caustic work conditions, and many of our best engineers leaving the field. Or maybe they're being hired by competitors like China, India, Russia. Now, the subcontractor issue. Oh, please do tell. Years ago, NASA decided there were too many white male engineers. However, there simply weren't enough engineers of other races or of the opposite sex to hire. And even with the racially based preferences, mentoring, etc., that NASA has in place, the solution that the government came up with was to let people of other races form companies called subcontractors. NASA would then give these engineering jobs at Lockheed Martin, Boeing, NASA, etc., specifically to those companies. Those companies would then hire those same white male engineers. The engineers do the same work in the same building as if they were hired directly by those companies, but now those white male engineers count towards minority statistics. Oh, that is so. For those of you that don't understand how this works, they added a middleman. And the middleman was a minority, black-owned businesses and whatnot. And the same people are doing, like the same white and Asian guys are doing the same work, but since they're doing it through a minority middleman, it now counts as meeting checking the box and meeting the quota. Oh, we send this work out to a black-owned business. That's what they're doing here for those that don't get it. NASA will publicly claim that this saves money. The reality is that the white male engineers make less than they would if they worked directly for Lockheed Martin, Boeing, or NASA, as a cut of their salary goes to the subcontracting company. Yeah, the more middlemen you add, the more the money they take, obviously. Middlemen are pretty much almost always bloat. Now, those engineers can never be promoted, and they were hired into that seat and not into the parent company. So they also lose their jobs whenever the project they were hired into ends. And in effect, you are asking people with advanced degrees in aerospace engineering to be temp employees so that people of desired races can make money off of their labor. And then China comes along and offers you twice as much money for the same job, plus to put you in a leadership position. And they wonder why China gets the engineers. Real mystery there. No idea why. The situation is far worse than it seems. Subcontracting employees are not covered by the parent company's ethics policy, meaning that those employees can be verbally abused, made to work an unlimited amount of time, terminated with zero discussion, warning, or explanation. Yeah, technically, the subcontracting company is the one that's going to be held liable for that. But it rarely happens. Yeah, this is one of those moments where this discrimination always has been illegal. It's just no one bothered to sue for it. But now we're actually seeing more of them. White male engineers have absolutely no legal recourse to address any ethics violations, discrimination, or abuse, and have no career path. So they leave and go somewhere else, and then they get blamed for it. Additionally, the subcontracting company is wholly dependent upon the larger company to use them as the subcontractor. If a large company like Lockheed Martin or Boeing wants to abuse a subcontracting employee, any subcontractor company that defends the rights of its employee will find that it gets no future contracts. As outlined at this website devoted to ending these policies, day-to-day environment for an engineer in these positions can be nightmarish. So let's talk moolah. Let's compare today's programs to some of the early ones at NASA. The table below shows the program name, the years that it existed, and the number of years from the program start until the first manned flight, the rough total of vehicles built, the number of missions, and then the total cost of that program with all dollars adjusted for today's inflation. So the Mercury program, what is that? 5 years, 3 years to the first manned flight, 20 vehicles, 6 manned missions, $2.7 billion. Gemini, also 5 years, 4 years to the first flights, 12 vehicles, all manned, $10 billion. Apollo, that's the big one. That's when they went to the moon, like all these crypto, right? The Apollo mission only lasted 6 years, or the Apollo program only lasted 6 years. Took 3 years to make it to the moon from start. 19 vehicles, 6 of them manned. I'm assuming they don't count the one that burnt up on the launch pad. 43.5 billion. That makes sense. They made it to the moon, something we haven't been able to do since for some weird fucking reason. Now we got Orion. Been going on for 19 years. Nothing so far. 6 vehicles, and I think they're all test vehicles. 1 uncrewed mission. Almost 30 billion. Wow, the diversity is our strength, guys. Look at what it's accomplishing. As you can see, the average time from inception to manned launch for Mercury, Gemini, and Apollo was less than 4 years. The Orion program is at its 18th year and just recently launched its first unmanned vehicle, with plans to launch a manned mission in the next 2 years. It's probably be delayed to 4 or 5, if I were to guess. Yet the Orion program has already spent roughly 2/3 the amount spent on the Apollo capsule, the comparable part, so it's taking more than 5 times longer with higher cost to get fewer results. Why is this happening? Because diversity is our strength, duh. The 2 primary problems are congressional indifference and a racially based system and NASA that incentivizes bloat. Oh, thank you. You used the word. I love it when people call out bloat. Where previously an engineer at NASA would do technical work and be managed and mentored by an older engineer with technical expertise in the field. Now that engineer is a subcontractor, his technical work must now support management at the parent company as well as management as a subcontracting company. So neither of these groups of people are technical people. Some may have degrees, MBAs. But they often don't have experience or training in CAD modeling, finite element analysis, design mathematics, or any other field needed to oversee such work or to mentor junior engineers. Yeah, because they're not engineers themselves. They're managers. They fancy themselves leaders, but they're just managers. So watch their first crewed mission pulls a Challenger. So that's actually my theory. Put yourself in the shoes of a straight white male working at NASA. You did everything right to be a candidate for the next mission. You're actually the most qualified. You think you're going to be a shoo-in. And then they implement all these diversity quotas and they pretty much tell you, no, the whole purpose of Artemis is to send women's and people of color to the moon. Since you're white, sorry, you're not on this mission. You don't get to live that once in a lifetime dream of going into space, of going to the moon. Sucks to be you. Now imagine they put that guy in some support role, and he was going over the craft and said, "Oh, well, this O-ring looks like it might be a bit leaky." I'm sure the diversity hires know what they're doing. I'm sure it'll be fine. I'm not even going to say anything. It would be racist or sexist for me to point out a mistake they made. That could be viewed as an attack on their credibility and authority and intelligence. Yeah, I'm legit wondering how much of that is going on. Like how many problems are that people know about but aren't saying anything? This is what's going to make things get good. So these subcontracting engineers are often asked to do all the technical work, earn less pay, have no career path, and be open to all forms of abuse, while people at the larger company and subcontracting company leave off of their work. These practices should be ended, not just because they're wasteful and damaging in the space program, but also because they are patently immoral and unconstitutional. And will probably lead to another Challenger incident, or maybe even a Columbia incident. Oh, look, they're almost back. It's all good, guys. Nope. And it's no surprise that the biggest disasters are at launch and at re-entry. And look at fucking Apollo 13. They had their problems out in space and they rode through that. If they had any issues on launch or re-entry, they wouldn't have even had a chance to survive. They would have just burnt up.